Gather around, kiddies, because I'm about to blow your mind. Godzilla officially exists in the Marvel Universe. Well, more specifically, in Marvel Earth 616, Godzilla's existence is canon. That means the same universe that has the Avengers, the X-Men, and Spider-Man also has an official Godzilla. Buckle up, because this is gonna be a hell of a ride. Featuring tequila. Godzilla King of the Monsters Issue 1 was distributed by Marvel Comics in August of 1977. Although the comic debuted in 77, Marvel head Stan Lee had been trying to get the rights to Godzilla since around 1972. Then Editor-in-Chief Roy Thomas had been charged with the task first, but he had no luck with the notoriously stubborn Toho. But thanks to more pressure from Lee, editor Archie Goodwin persisted and finally got Toho on board. I know this because the entire story appears right here in Issue 1, along with Marvel's explanation for having Godzilla be part of their superhero universe. The series would last exactly 2 years with 24 issues. It was written by Doug Mensch, a fantastic writer, with primary art duty by Herb Trimpe. Fun fact about Trimpe, he's the first artist to draw Wolverine for publication. As you can see, their version of Godzilla looks very lizard-like. He has long arms with human-like hands, which he uses a lot, and he has more of a T-Rex looking head. Okay, for much of my life, I dismissed this series as being a silly attempt to wedge Godzilla into the Marvel Universe. But after reading all 24 issues, I have to say, this series is really good. 3.5 stars! The series begins with Godzilla emerging from an icy tomb in Alaska. It's later explained that in 1954, a ship conducting undersea nuclear tests split the ocean floor and awoke Godzilla, who also mutated from the radiation. One scientist aboard the ship, Dr. Yuriko Takaguchi, joins the government agency SHIELD for the series as they try to stop Godzilla's rampage across America. There are fleeting references to other times Godzilla has attacked Japan. It seems that they purposely made it where if you want the early Godzilla films to be canon to the story, they sort of can be. In Issue 1, Nick Fury appears as head of S.H.I.E.L.D. and hands the Godzilla problem off to Dum Dum Dugan. And then Fury never returns. And the entire series is about Dum Dum Dugan chasing Godzilla. This guy. They had all the Marvel characters, and they gave the series to Dum Dum. They should have called it Godzilla vs. Dum Dum. But the series really is Godzilla touring across America. He stops at Seattle, then San Francisco, where he tussles with Hercules, Angel, Iceman, and Black Widow. Look at this! Hercules tossed Godzilla on his ass! Issues 4 and 5 have the bunch facing off against a mad scientist named Dr. Demonicus, who was once a geneticist intrigued with the correlation between radioactive agents and mutation. Also, Dr. Demonicus was a bit of a racist. Look at how he keeps calling this S.H.I.E.L.D. agent gay black man. Ah, the 1970s. There's another major character I should mention. Dr. Takaguchi has a grandson named Robert, who's along for the ride. Takaguchi works with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Tony Stark to create a giant mecha called Red Ronin, who needs to be piloted in order to work. Robert sneaks into Red Ronin and his mind imprints into the robot's software, making it that this kid is the only one who can fly Red Ronin. Godzilla and Red Ronin team up more than a few times throughout the series, with it being heavily implied that Godzilla can understand that Red Ronin is trying to help him. In fact, this is one of the strongest aspects of the Marvel series. The writer tries to show us inside Godzilla's head, and while the kaiju's intentions are never made crystal clear, his thought process is heavily implied throughout. Marvel's Godzilla is actually quite benevolent, but also lost and confused. He only becomes aggressive when he feels threatened or provoked, but really, he just wants to be left alone. The writing can get surprisingly deep, and I really like that. Look at this! Marvel Godzilla trashed Las Vegas decades before the legendary Godzilla did. Ha! Eventually, Dum Dum and most of S.H.I.E.L.D. realize Godzilla isn't evil and try to find ways to contain him without hurting him. And that's when we get to issue 17, where things get weird. Issue 17 is where everyone suddenly remembers that this is the Marvel Universe, and Hank Pym is a thing. Recall that Hank Pym uses something called Pym particles to shrink and grow, and that's how he becomes Ant-Man. or Giant Man, or Yellow Jacket, whoever the hell he was back in those days. So they hit Godzilla with Pym particles and shrink him, and then take him to New York City for study. He escapes, and we finally get the stories we've always wanted to see, like Godzilla vs. Sewer Rat. It's a really bizarre story arc, and it lasts pretty much the rest of the series. Godzilla starts gradually growing bit by bit, and there's one point when he's about the size of Rob, and Rob tries to dress him up in a trench coat to hide him. Take that in for a moment. Godzilla has worn a trench coat. He even gets into a fight with some of the humans, and there's a part where Dum Dum Dugan punches Godzilla in the face. That's a sentence I just said. As he keeps growing, Godzilla continues wreaking havoc in New York City. So here, Marvel starts hitting us with the crossovers. The Fantastic Four have a go at the Big G, and they even try sending him back in time to get rid of him. That doesn't take, and Godzilla returns to New York full size. Now the Avengers get involved, and after 2 years of build-up, we finally see a nice clash of Godzilla vs. the Marvel Universe. It's awesome. My only complaint is that they keep teasing that Spider-Man's going to appear, but he doesn't show up until after the battle is over. Spider-Man's my longtime favorite Marvel hero, and as far as I know, this panel here is the only official, canonical time we see Godzilla and Spider-Man together. I guess one panel is better than no panel. Remember that little kid Robert? Well, he starts crying to Godzilla and explaining that Godzilla has to leave New York. And then Godzilla fucking listens! It turns out that in order to stop a Godzilla attack, all you have to do is ask him to leave. Why didn't you try that, Tokyo? Godzilla walks off into the ocean and the series ends. The 24 issues are a nice, self-contained event with a satisfying enough ending. If you're both a fan of Marvel and Godzilla like I am, I highly recommend you check this out. It could be tricky though. You can't download it from the Marvel app as of right now. There is an Essential Godzilla collection out there, but I believe it's out of print. And like all Essential collections, it's in black and white. Your best bet might be to buy back issues on eBay or at your local comic shop. It's also really interesting to read the letter pages. I found it fascinating to read how G-fans back then reacted to the series. Many of them loved it, but some were critical. Marvel lost the licensing rights to Godzilla after the series ended, but that didn't stop them from using the character. This is crazy. Remember Dr. Demonicus? Well, he appears in Iron Man issues 193 and 194. This was back when Tony Stark was a recovering alcoholic. In this story, we see a creature that looks very similar to Godzilla enslaved by Dr. Demonicus. Demonicus refers to the creature as his once greatest enemy, and he mentions that he's been mutating the creature, explaining why Godzilla looks different. It's actually really sad. The Marvel Godzilla was so compassionate, so to see him being captured, mutated, and brainwashed by a former foe is a little heartbreaking. Anyway, at one point, Iron Man lifts the entire monster. Jesus Christ. Then he dumps him in the ocean. It would be fine if it ended there, but a little later, we see the mutated Godzilla returns to Dr. Demonicus. Next time we see Godzilla is in The Thing issue 31 in 1985. The Thing is on an island at a movie shoot when suddenly Godzilla just pops out of the ocean. Nothing really happens here. Eventually Godzilla just returns to the sea. The Thing missed the entire, thing. As far as I'm concerned, that's it for Godzilla appearing in Marvel canon. However, there is a little bit of a disagreement with G-fans online that I should address. Some believe that Godzilla appears again as recently as in 2009 in Uncanny X-Men issue 506. In this story, mutants are on the verge of extinction, so Beast and a few friends are gathering the world's most brilliant minds to figure out how to save mutant kind. One scientist they meet is Dr. Takaguchi from the original Godzilla comic series. Takaguchi lives alone on an island where he's conducting research on atomic mutation. Takaguchi mistook Beast and his friends for Russian spies, and he activated creatures he created in his lab. One of these creatures, named Leviathan, is believed by some G-fans to be a further mutated Godzilla. I strongly disagree. Having read the comic, there's nothing to lead me to believe this is actually Godzilla. Takaguchi claims he created Leviathan right there in a lab. But in the Godzilla comics, Godzilla was awoken from the ocean during the nuclear tests I mentioned earlier. Tests that Takiguchi was there for, but he opposed. Leviathan is killed the next issue, pretty unceremoniously by Archangel. Dr. Takiguchi himself passes away a little later in Uncanny X-Men issue 515. Since then, there are quick appearances here and there that may pay homage to Godzilla, but I can't confirm if they're actually supposed to be the Marvel canonical Big G. I take them to be more like Easter eggs. So there you have it, the story of how Godzilla fit into the Marvel Universe. It's pretty crazy, right? I didn't even have time to get into all the insane stuff like Godzilla vs. Bigfoot. Let me know what you think about the Godzilla Marvel comics in the comments below, especially if you've read them. They're not perfect, but I enjoyed reading them much more than I thought I would. It certainly was a wild and imaginative ride.